Hi. Today I'd like to talk to you about uh, an epiphany I've had. The Insidious BRIBE of 2017. The 2017 Tax Reduction Act was the biggest bribe ever applied to our nation. What did the Republican Party buy with the bribe? Look the other way as they replace our democracy with a fascist regime forever. Believe the big lie that our electoral system is flawed so that they can prevent fair elections in the future. Do nothing for the lower 25% of wage earners, making them a slave class for the businesses. I believe the Republicans believe that the only way businesses can, or at least small businesses, can survive is by having a constant flow of minimum wage employees available to them. And smile and give them your vote for putting a few hundred to a few $1,000s more into the pockets of 74% of our wage earners. I call this the ultimate bribe. So what else does the bribe buy? Well, look the other way as they ignore the fact that millions to billions have been removed from the federal budget yearly that could have gone and could have been used for the Build Back Better legislation and put into the pockets of big businesses and the super rich. Enact laws that will move more of the middle class into the slave class in the future. Make our country become another democracy like Hungary, a democracy in name only. So what can we do to save our democracy? Well, I know a lot of conservative Republicans don't want to think about this, but you could vote Democratic for the next few election cycles, at least until we get rid of the insidious Republican leaders at both the state and federal levels. Or accept the fact that our democracy, by the people and for the people, will no longer exist. So that's almost your option these days. Wake up. All I can say here is wake up, people. Do not let the current Republican fascists do that. Keep in mind that anyone making less than $400,000 per year will pay no additional tax. I see our democracy as a spectrum, socialism on the left and fascism on the right. I believe the only way to make our nation great again is by more and better education for all, not believing in conspiracy theories. We must stop the hate campaign fostered by social media, the Republicans, and Trump, just to get more views in whatever media they're in today. Extreme polarization destroys democracy. If the people get the money and the socialist left gets the majority of votes, then socialism will prevail and our democracy will be diminished. But if businesses get the money and the conservative right gets the majority of votes, then fascist regime will prevail. And based on what the Republican think tanks have thought up lately, not only will our democracy be diminished, it will be lost. So basically, those are your options. Keep in mind, democracy is a spectrum ranging from socialism on the left, on the far left, to fascism on the far right. I believe money can titrate our capitalistic democracy to middle ground where people and businesses can coexist in harmony. I believe that when either the left or the right leaning party is in the minority, they must govern and not just be obstructionists like we've seen out of the Republicans in the last 5 years. Did you know that the 2017 Taxation Reduction Act decreased the tax on businesses and the super rich running those businesses by 12% or $3.38 trillion over 10 years? This is the calculation that I've done, and I've talked a little bit more about it in other videos. Basically, the money was removed from the federal budget that supported everyone and added to the pockets of businesses and the super rich that run those businesses. Democrats are just trying to balance the amount given to businesses and to the people to maintain harmony. Again, our democracy is a spectrum. So my point is, for democracy to thrive, both the left and the right must participate in governing our country. When one party has lost the advantage, they must still negotiate and participate in governing, not become obstructionists or try to overthrow our democracy with some sinister set of plots. I've talked about the sinister plots in other videos, so I'm just going to show this slide for a moment. And I also talked about a slave class that applying, no one wants to see a fetus aborted. That shouldn't even be a policy or statement by a party, a political party. But there are situations where abortion is the necessary approach to keep the mother safe. And what we've seen in Texas is almost an obscene far-right position, and that should be backed off. What does right to life really mean? I've talked a little bit more about that too, but here's the slide. I have to admit I've used Heather Koch Richardson, who is a historian who has a daily blog, and she's helped me understand how history plays into the positions we are currently in. I might go back here one more. I also have been watching Rachel Maddow, who in a satirical way really brings out the craziness of some of the things that have happened over the last couple of years. So in summary, for our capitalistic democracy to thrive, businesses and the people must coexist in harmony. Both parties must govern and not obstruct. Businesses and the right need to accept a 28% tax to fund the Build Back Better legislature to improve our nation's infrastructure and improve our people's lives. Businesses will still get about $2 trillion over 10 years, more than they got before the 2017 Tax Reduction Act was put in effect. Our country and its people will get approximately $1.4 trillion over 10 years if the Build Back Better plan is legislated. And that will be $2.4 trillion more than they got from the 2017 legislation. So hey folks, this is not just one side. This is not total socialism trying to take over. What this is using money to titrate to some middle ground that allows our democracy to survive. I believe that people need to get this, and I don't mean to I don't mean to be mean or obnoxious to anybody, but I think that we need to present these kinds of ideas to both the Democratic and Republican sides, so that we understand that we don't need to be polarized to maintain a democracy. We don't have to push the nation into a fascist state to keep our democracy in harmony. So thank you. And I also have presented this presentation in a written format. I say friends, colleagues, and relatives. I know talking about politics is not acceptable in many situations, but I almost feel that if we don't start talking about it in our community service groups and in other places, that we will lose our democracy in the next 2 to 4 years. So this is my presentation, which is fairly short in written format, and I may be sending it out to people. So thank you for listening, and have a great day.